On June 15, 2012, the Alamance Makers Guild held a special how-to session all about crafts. Avril Bower graciously volunteered to demonstrate her hobby of glass jewelry making to the rest of the group. Afterwards, folks got a chance to try their own hand at jewelry making. Here's what we learned.
Alright, well, what I've got out here is obviously everything that I used to work with. I've got my hand tools, which consist of a glass cutter and my breakers. And I also have various tweezers because, as you can see, I'm working with typically very tiny pieces. As well as my other jewelry making tools, my wire cutters and my round nose pliers. I typically have a grinder, but I wore out my jewelry grinder head, so I'm waiting for a replacement. And I like my fingers, so I don't use the big one. These are the settings that I typically use. As you can see, sometimes I use settings, sometimes I don't. Just kind of depends on what strikes me at the moment. And then my glass. My partner, she does stained glass, and so she leaves all of these pieces that we can't really use in anything, and she hates to do mosaics, so I steal them and I try to make something else out of them. I also have my finishing. This is actually just to kind of hold everything in place until I get it glazed, and depending on what I'm doing depends on what type of glaze I use. This is a lot thinner, and it gives it a nice shiny feel. This one's thicker, and it kind of gives it more of a waxy feel, and you'll be able to see that with this one. And those are my tools. So what I'm doing here is I've got these all in different stages. This is the first one. This is just a setting. And what I've done here is, how I choose to do this is I enjoy details. Things that don't get appreciated very often is what I like. So anything very small immediately attracts my attention. So this piece of glass I saw in a store, and it was just a little bit of a chip, so I thought it looked like a geode, so I decided I'd just pop that in there. And then I just fill in with the rest of my glass. And that is pretty easy, actually. It's just, you basically just want to perforate your glass. You don't want to cut it because then that'll crush it. And then I have a perfect tiny little piece where I can just fit in to wherever I want. After I've glued that down with my handy Elmer's and get everything just the way that I'd like it, what I'll do is I'll come back in and fill it in with my glaze. This is what, let me pass those around. That piece right there is just glued down. It doesn't have anything else on it. This piece is something new that I came up with, or that I put together this week. I haven't tried one of these before, but this is just the diamond glaze and glued down. Pass that in that direction. And I like that one because it kind of reminded me of a feather. And this one is my garnet taco. And this is basically just a bunch of tiny little square pieces that I just dumped into something else that I glued together. It's not very pretty at all, but these are just prototypes, basically. And this is actually the finished product. This is after it's been ground down so that there are more sharp edges, and then glazed over so that it's wearable at that point. And then I also do my own bales, which are these tiny little things here. And that'll just, they're pretty easy to do. With my round nose, I'll twist it once, and then I have my nylon pliers. And these are great because it'll hold it without me pinching my fingers. And at that point I just twist it around until I'm happy with it. And that way I have a nice pretty little spiral that I can glue on the back. to hold it. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. Each piece takes, I've been working on this one now for 3 hours. But from start to finish, one piece will take a good 24 to be completely dry and ready to put on a chain and sell. That's it.
And where do you sell them, and typically what kind of prices?
A piece like this would probably go for 26. I've done larger pieces. I've done several of these before. This one will take more like 5 hours to complete and 48 hours to completely cure. I do sell every year. There is a Highland Artists Fair up in Boone, North Carolina, and it's run by a student group at Appalachian, and they just invite any artist. I kind of got lucky. I'm not a Highland artist, obviously, but my sister is the assistant curator of the Turgeon Center up there, and so she got me in the door with this and my other jewelry. So, and that's very fun. If you can come, they have 2 a year. Next one's going to be around Thanksgiving.
What is the glazing? Is that a
Glaze?
Is it liquid?
Yes, these are liquids. Triple thick. This is more almost really a lacquer, but it's almost a glue, kind of like Mod Podge. And then the glaze. This is more of just an adhesive. I use a lot of different things. I've tried resins before, but I found out very quickly that I was allergic. That did not go well. And there are some other things. You can use glue. You can pretty much use anything you'd like, as long as it's sticky and it'll dry. Any questions? Comments? Threats?
Where do you get your base for your jewelry for like this?
The settings?
The settings.
I do buy these online. However, there is a store over in Raleigh. I cannot remember the name of it right now, but they sell these by the pack.
Okay.
They're not cheap. They're $4.25 for 6. But they worked when I was first starting out because I needed something to kind of hold everything together.
Do places like Hobby Lobby or Michael's have that kind of stuff too?
They do. I know I got these from Hobby Lobby, and all my glass comes from the Glass Angel downtown.
Okay.
And she's offered to consign some of my work as well. I just haven't taken her up on it yet.
Cool.
Yep. What else?
Were you using the vegetable oil to lubricate the glass cutter, or what
Yes.
did you do?
Yes, that's for the glass cutter, so I don't just shatter the glass. And I think the first time I sliced myself and started bleeding, I kind of got hooked on this, which is very strange, but it worked for me.
Let's give her a nice round of applause for sharing with us.
That was a round of applause.
The Alamance Makers Guild is a group of talented and creative makers located in Alamance County, North Carolina, and is sponsored in part by Harris Educational, makers of reinventing science kits like Reinventing Edison Build Your Own Light Bulb.